Hi, I'm Drew Coles.
And I'm Erin Coles.
And this is Met Player Monday.
So today we're talking about timelines. So timelines are super, super important just to ensure that every single one of your vendors is on the same page and kind of has an idea of the run of show for the night. Mm-hmm. And not only your vendors, but you as the couple going into your wedding, just having a general idea of what to expect and when all of your formalities like your first dance, parent dances, speeches, and all of that fun stuff are happening. And something that's really cool that sets us apart from other bands is that we actually help you create a timeline for your wedding. So we'll talk with you ahead of time, as well as your venue and other vendors if that's important as well, to make sure that we have a general run of show for the night that includes everything that needs to happen. And one reason we talk to your venues ahead of time is because they need to serve you your food and all of your guests. So kind of using that as the starting template and then building outside of that based on your preferences and food serving times and kind of when we want everything to happen, we'll make sure that that's all set for you ahead of time. And we've also done this 1,000 times. We've played at hundreds of weddings, and so if you're stuck on exactly what you want and you're not sure if you even have preferences on where things should go, then we'll work with you ahead of time to give you suggestions on exactly when things should happen to make sure that the night flows as smoothly as possible.
So at the end of the day, it's what we want. We want the night to flow. We want no one to feel antsy. We also don't want people to just be sitting while food is being served, or in the absence of food sometimes, because sometimes we need to deviate away from the timeline, but it helps to have a good guide to start with before we get into any of the hairiness that can come up when a wedding day actually unfolds.
Yeah, absolutely. And something that we always are so happy about is when we arrive to a venue and the venue has our timeline printed out and then they go by that all night.
Yeah,
I mean,
so
it
funny.
happens all the time, but it's so helpful because we've spent a lot of time with you ahead of time to make sure that it's perfect, crystal clear, ready to go. So it just happens quite frequently that not only the venue, but sometimes the photographer will also have our timeline printed out that we've worked on together so that everything is smooth all night.
Yeah, and we also carry extra copies just so that we could give them out on the day of. Because, like Erin said, we've been working with you on the timeline for so long that we ultimately know what your preferences are, sometimes, and a lot of times, more than what the venue will actually know on the day of the wedding. And it's funny because some of the times the venues will sort of pass off our timeline as their own, and they'll be like, "Oh, well, this is the timeline that we're using." And they'll be like, "It has our logo at the top. Did you read it? Like, did you look at the logo? Look at our van and like our equipment." That's really
Yeah, that does happen.
That's really funny thing. Like, read it anyway. So ultimately, we want the best for your day. So a timeline is a good place to start.
Absolutely.
So a typical timeline will start with the very beginning of the night, meaning when the guests are actually welcomed into the reception space. I should start actually before that, because a timeline actually starts with the full entire day. So we would start from the prelude to the ceremony, if you've booked us for that service, all of the components of the ceremony, meaning all the special songs, all the readings, everything goes in there, just so that we know exactly what's happening in the order in which it's happening. And the finishing touch on that part is the day of. The coordinator will go up to the officiant and ask them what's the last thing they say before we're supposed to play the recessional, or the last song of the ceremony as you're recessing up the aisle
after you're
being
officially
announced.
married.
From the ceremony, we'll then go to the cocktail hour, and on that part of the timeline, we'll include any of the cocktail hour requests, if you have any. Otherwise, we'll just play a mix of jazz and contemporary pop music covers / American songbook tunes, which a lot of people love. Our musicians are trained to places that's going to work for everybody in the room.
Yeah.
From there, the timeline will go to your reception, and that'll include when people walk through the door right down to the very last song, including the encore, and what we need to do for the venue if they have anything we need to worry about, like a sound ordinance or anything like that. And in the reception specifically, after people walk in, it'll have listed whether we're supposed to play a dance set there. That's becoming more popular these days. It will play a dance set right out the gate, and then welcome the couple in, and then have their special dances. But regardless of that, we'll have the first dance, and then if there are any parent dances after that or any other significant dances, then it'll itemize those with the name of the dance, exactly the time that the dance is going to happen, any speeches, how the speeches should be introduced, if you have anything, especially you want one of the vocalists or the MC for your wedding to say about the people who are coming up. It's simply just the name, like the the best man or the
but sometimes
man of honor
like
or maid of honor. Or
best
like
friends since we were 5 or something like that, which can personalize it. So we
definitely.
write all of that, like Drew just said, on the timeline so that our MC knows exactly what to say for those specific moments when we're introducing anything for the night.
True.
From when you're coming into the reception for the first time, to your speeches, to the announcement at the end of the night. If you have shuttles or anything, all of that is going to be included. And so from the point of the speeches, what we typically have after that are courses. So when any of your courses and food are being served by the venue, and in between those portions, we have dance sets. And so what we try to do with our recommendations with you ahead of time is really maximize the dancing time as much as we can. And so sometimes that means doing shorter dance sets in between courses as plates are being cleared. Sometimes that means doing a longer dance set at the end. That usually means having a quick break for some dessert and coffee so that your guests can rest their weary dancing feet, because they will be dancing with us all night. So we'll definitely work with you ahead of time to make sure that time is not only maximized, but also makes sense for ensuring that your guests still have a moment to sit down and rest every once in a while.
Yeah, that's
when
important.
They need to.
That's really, really important. And ultimately, if a couple decides that they just want to dance their guests like for nonstop, we'll do it. But a lot of times people take their cues at special events like these from when food is being plated and food is being served. So a lot of times we're actually at the mercy of the venue on how the actual night goes, though we can certainly encourage people to dance. But if they see that dessert is being served, sometimes it just clears a dance floor, because they probably up until that point in the night been dancing for about an hour already.
Oh, yeah.
And they need a little bit of a break before we bring it home in the last hour.
A little caffeine from their nighttime coffee so that they can get back up and dance for the rest of the night. So ultimately, at the end of the night, we work so hard on this timeline for you because we want to make sure that the night is flowing super smoothly and that we maximize the dancing time so that you can have as much fun as possible and worry as little as possible.
Yeah, a worry-free wedding is a good wedding.
It's important.
Their little nighttime cappuccino. What was that?
I don't know.
You're so funny.
That's what happened.
Oh my.
We should wait.
That's not. It's obnoxious.
I literally didn't notice it at first. I was just like, let me just block this out.
Ha!
We're in New York. And I was like, wait a second, no. I need to stop.
All right, what's going to be your one thing that you're going to say at the end?
Oh my god, I was about to say or yes, and then I thought about it too much and didn't say anything. It got too late for me to say anything.
That's the story of your life. You think too much. I'm frozen in place.
I apparently have high-functioning anxiety, or I'm just high-functioning. Remember that thing I showed you yesterday? This was one of the things. It was like overthinking.
Brother.